Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Endzone to Endzone. Just let this music play just a little bit, get the groove going.
I like that.
It's a feel-good Sunday. All right, as you can see on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, that is Megan Price. She is at the Queen of Hoop on the Twitter, whatever they call it now. She is host of 806 Sports Radio, Amarillo Sod Poodles Production, WBB Media, creator of the Sip Off. She is also co-host of Three Chicks in a Pod, Chicks and Salsa. Ooh, I like that. Pod, Chicks, and Salsa. Megan, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Chicks and Salsa and Three Chicks in a Pod is basically the same show. After we found three of us, a fourth chick came along. And so we had it's kind of like a spinoff where we have the four of us on that one. And then the other one is just the three of us.
Well, it was a wild weekend in football. But Absolutely. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, she is a Cowboys fan. Before we jump into any games, Megan, I've got questions as a former Cowboys fan. I'm going to lay it on the line for you here. I have said for the last 20 some odd years, Jerry Jones has shoved the red hot poker up the fan base's ass. He is the problem. He's always been the problem. When you run Bill Parcells after 3 years, because Bill Parcells can't take your bull shit, if you know what I'm saying. Again, I've said before, Megan, I don't want to shit anything bad on the man, but when the Cowboy fans nation unite, stop going to the games, expecting there to be a different result. Megan, I don't see anything changing this year. What say you about the whole Cowboys thing?
No, I absolutely agree. I think that no matter what the problem is, it's always going to boil down to who's at the head of things. And he just will not give up the GM position, and still does all our drafting for us as well, which has done decently over the last couple of years. I'll say that. But going into the season, I was convinced that we were only going to get 6 wins. And I thought that we had lost a lot during the offseason. Dak is getting older. Several contracts were under negotiations at the time. And then I get to looking at our schedule and I was like, oh, it's super easy. Like, we're really lucky that our strength and schedule is not terrible this year. Right. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm looking at it and logically like, well, all right, we should win at least 10 games. And then we've looked really bad since then. And then, obviously we've got 5 players that are out today. Parsons, D-Law, Bland, Cooks, and then Diggs. I don't know if Diggs is going to play. He did tweak his ankle during practice. So it was just a really rough week. And it started on Sunday when I thought like, oh, hey, there's no problem. The Cowboys aren't playing today. I should have, a stress-free Sunday, right? And I'm walking into lunch and I get an alert from ESPN and it says D-Law out 4 to 8 weeks. I was like, oh, here we go. And that was just the tone for the week. So going into this matchup, I'm not super excited. I do think it's going to say a lot more about Pittsburgh, who they're going to go with as far as their quarterback. Like if Fields has another tough performance, I could see Russell Wilson next week. However, if he does have a good game against the Cowboys, and I don't know how much of a measuring stick you use that as of right now with at least 4 of our defensive players out. So I don't know the type of relevance it has now compared to what it did at the beginning of the week, but it'll be a good test for both teams.
As you can see on the screen there, and that god-awful, horrendous sweatshirt that he has on, that is Mike Fiordimando, Mike Fuji. Fuji, welcome. I can just say one thing about today in football.
What the hell's going on out here? What the hell's going on out here?
Fuji, I was just getting in with Megan about the Cowboys. I didn't use the term that I normally use. I had to buffer it a little bit about Jerry Jones basically shoving a red hot poker up the fan base's ass. Any questions for Megan about the Cowboys? As far you know how I feel about the situation. Until the old man, now the old man has said that he is not going to die until the Cowboys win another Super Bowl. By the way, so Fuji, what say you? What questions do you have for Megan about Dallas?
Well, first of all, Megan, I want to wish you the thank you for coming on Endzone.
Oh yeah, of course.
Finally, get to me. I know it was back and forth, with shows and schedules, and welcome to the show.
I had a crazy year this last year, so I appreciate you holding on and
no problem. Hey,
bearing with me. It was crazy.
I know you do multiple shows, and we know all about it. I mean, I do another show. Ryan does 3 shows by himself, and just to dive into it. I mean, big blow a couple of weeks ago. Dallas losing Micah Parsons, Marcus Lawrence. I mean, what's their timetable to come back? And I mean, do they have guys that could step right in and two big pieces on that defensive line?
I say that I didn't feel as, I don't know, I guess hurt about the Parsons being out for 2 to 3 weeks. That's the timetable on him. Because it felt like he didn't really want to be there in the first place. And so my thought was maybe this can kind of either get his attitude straight or get our attitude straight about it. Like maybe we can look outside of Parsons and see how we look without him on the field, and just kind of make those decisions, because it is definitely in a contract year. Either we're going to pay him or he's going to walk. It's going to go one way or the other, and somebody that, what he had to say going into our playoff matchup against Green Bay, you said that in front of before the game was even played, about Dan Quinn and what a heck of a coordinator that he is, and that, hey, he might follow him where he goes. You don't say that in front of your playoff matchup for a team that y'all are both still playing for, And so it's been a mess since then, our locker room has. So hearing Micah Parsons was out for 2 to 3 weeks, I think that's good for both sides of things. Like, he can decide if he really wants to be there and how he wants the season to go. And we can also look outside of things and think like, okay, well, next man up, because it may have to be this anyway. Now, D-Law being out for 4 to 8 weeks, that sucks. He's somebody, that's Tank, that is just our workhorse really on the defensive side of things. So that was a big loss for me. And then Bland being out, that hurts too.
Well, I mean, it's, again, Pittsburgh, and then you got San Fran coming up in the next week. Washington's coming out of the gate 4-1. Jalen Daniels is just playing lights out, and Dan Quinn is your defensive coordinator now,
right,
head coach, and now it's, everybody thought it was between the Eagles and the Cowboys, and now it's like, Washington coming on like gangbusters. I know it's week 5, and they still got a lot of, better teams to play than they really had played, but still.
But they look really good. It was not. I expected them to be improved. I did not expect them to be in first. And I figured it would be the Eagles and the Cowboys battling it out for first. And obviously Washington kind of giving hell to whoever was in the 2 seat probably. But that is not the case. And it just feels like they have a chip on their shoulders over there in Washington. And maybe that's not the right word. It feels like a fresh start for them, not only for the organization, but for the fans, because they finally get to get away from Dan Snyder. They're clear and free. And they're able to put all the ugliness that was on that whistleblowing situation, and they can put that behind them. New owners, new coach, new quarterback staff, new quarterback. Like it's just new. And they might be overperforming. Remember when we thought the Giants were trending in that same direction? And clearly that's not the case. So it's definitely one of those that's like yet to be seen. We'll see what they do, not just this season, if they can continue that next season as well. But I did not expect Washington to beat this. Not yet.
They got to play somebody first. I mean, the Bengals aren't that great.
I agree.
The Browns aren't that great. So, so let's get into week 5 here. Recap. Of course, Megan's going to stick around for the whole hour. Let's start with Thursday night's game. Atlanta comes back and wins 36-30. Atlanta now 3-2. Tampa Bay 3-2. It looked like Buccaneers had them on the ropes. We go to the stats. Baker Mayfield was 19 of 24, 183 touchdowns, no picks. They ran the ball collectively 26 times for 160 yards. Godwin and Evans, they had respectable days. I mean, Evans had the 2 touchdown catches. The Falcons, Kirk Cousins went ballistic, 42 of 58, 4 touchdowns, a pick. They only ran the ball 18 times for 73 yards. That has to change. You drafted Bijan Robinson for a reason, and they're
Absolutely.
not using him. Drake London with the 12 catches for 154. Darren Mooney, 9 catches, 105, and 2 touchdowns. Fuji, when you looked at this game, you sort of knew it was going to come down to like who had the ball last or who was going to make, I don't know, a play or 2 more. And Atlanta did. I picked Atlanta to win this game. It was back and forth, not a lot of defense, but I mean, hey, Atlanta hung tough.
Well, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I actually picked Tampa to win this. Both teams coming off short weeks, and it just seemed like Tampa Bay had trouble running the ball early in the game, and they just couldn't really get nothing going. But Kirk Cousins throwing for 500 yards, Drake London, just lighting that offense up, and the Atlanta, between the Eagles and this game, Atlanta just pulling out a couple wins in the last minute. Hey, you got to take your hat off to them, and that NFC South right now, just between Atlanta and Tampa Bay, that's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah. Megan, what did you think about the game on Thursday?
It was a non-factor as far as defense, like you said, for both teams, but just awful performance on the Bucs side as far as defense. Just did not show up whatsoever. I expected the matchup to be close, but I was thinking like 31-34. And that was pretty close, but I didn't expect overtime. And I would have leaned more towards Tampa Bay as well, just especially off of the performance that Baker had the week before. He had done so well. And this wasn't a bad performance by him by any means, but just not anything to stand out really. So it was a very lackluster, but I think the Saints are still in that running as well as far as NFC South. But I mean, that's what they've been these past few years. Somebody's got to win the division. It's not going to be pretty by whoever wins. It's not going to be pretty.
We go to the game in London this morning, which was a snoozer, by the way. The Minnesota Vikings improved to 5-0 with the 23-17 victory over the Jets. Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers threw 3 picks. He was 29 of 54, 244, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. Breece Hall ran it 9 times, Braylon Allen 5. Yes, Garrett Wilson had the monster day, 13, 101 and a touch. Sam Darnold, 14 of 31, no touchdowns, a pick, $179. Ty Chandler ran the ball 14. Look, neither team could run the ball. Justin Jefferson, 6 carries, 92 yards. Minnesota jumped out to the 17-0 lead. Jets came back, Megan. But I mean, Aaron, he looks old. I'm 56. He's 40. He looked like I did today. That's how old he looks. Everybody thought he was going to be the savior. I was never sold on it. But look, when you're giving Breece Hall the ball 5 times, and they ran the ball 14 times for 36 yards, with the stable of running backs that they have, what the hell are they doing?
I mean, and a great question for their coach, because I would have figured I'd see more out of his offense than this. Not necessarily ready to completely point the finger at Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, because obviously the Jets, they're the ones that went for him. I think this amount of time away from the game, not only the type of injury that he had, but the amount of time that he had to spend away from the game, I think had a huge impact on that. It's different when you're 27, 28 years old and you have a partial tear on your Achilles. It's different. You can come back. It's not the same. When it happened to Kobe, he never came back. He was never 100% after that. And close to saying, I think Aaron it's probably time to hang it up. I do think the injury accelerated that process, but I've never been the biggest fan of Aaron Rodgers. I think, don't get me wrong, I think he's one of the most incredible talents that I've seen as far as raw talent, but who he is as a teammate really takes away from that.
Fuji, what say you about the snooze fest?
I literally almost watched this whole game. Don't ask me why I did, but I mean, Minnesota dominated that first half.
Yeah.
The second half, the Jets had a chance to win. Rodgers turned the ball, threw a pick. It was over. But Aaron Rodgers, there's just a disconnect with those receivers. Maybe Al Lazard, back from his days from Green Bay, but I don't know. The man just looks miserable as playing. He used to look like he had fun, but to me, I feel like, got peeking my head in the TV and say, why don't you just retire? You look like just a miserable old guy that's just collecting a check. All right, you're coming off a serious injury at your age, but to me, you're cooked, man. You're not AR-12 of 5-10 years ago. You're not the 3-time MVP. Just done. And that Jets team, if they don't make a push for Devontae Adams, I don't know how they're going to pay him. But that offense their defense kept them in it, and that offense is just lackluster.
Yeah, I mean,
that has been the story of the Jets for the last few years,
right,
that their defense has kept them in it, and the offense has looked very stagnant. I think it's very telling when your offense looks better with somebody like Mike White.
Yeah, more hard to fire. Probably not as
for sure,
not as talented as old school Aaron Rodgers, but at least a guy to fire in the belly.
Absolutely. You can't give the Brees Hall. You can't give him the rock only 5 times in the backfield. I mean, you got to run it more. You got to run it more than 12 to 14 times. They got a stable of running backs. They don't use them. Salah's not going to last. Salah's not going to last the season. I can guarantee you that. I don't know what coach is going to be fired first, but he's on the tops of the list.
Definitely.
The Chicago Bears put a pasting on the Panthers. It wasn't close. The Bears improved to 3-2. The Panthers are now 1-4. Andy Dalton was 18 to 28, 136, no touchdowns, a pick. Chuba Hubbard, 13 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Look at Jalen Coker was their leading receiver, 4 for 68. Caleb Williams looked okay, 20 to 29, 304, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, by the way. DeAndre Swift, 21 carries, 73 yards, and a touch. DJ Moore, 5 catches, 105, and 2 touchdowns. Look, everybody thought that Andy Dalton was going to be the cure-all for the Panthers. The Panthers are not a good football team. The Bears, this was a get-right game for them. Look, everybody thought when Andy Dalton came in that first week after Bryce Young got benched that everything was going to be gangbusters. Well, they got sort of like pegged back to earth today. Megan, the Panthers are not a good football team. I still don't know what to make of the Bears.
I think for the Bears, I feel like I would want to see that off of the moves that they've made in the offseason, the improvements that they've made, I would want to see more out of them than what we've seen. Now, I think this is a step in the right direction, but let's be real, you were playing the Panthers. And Andy Dalton is just Ryan Fitzpatrick 2.0. He's going to be decent about 6 or 7 games a year because he's been in the league so long. He has an amount of knowledge that can win you a football game. But he's not going to win you a season long. As far as teaching Bryce Young, I think he can teach him how to be a professional. I don't think you don't just throw him in that situation and think, oh, we're going to win a whole bunch of games because Andy Dalton's teaching our quarterback how to be a professional. Like, that's still a rebuild year.
Fuji. Oh, by the way, Chicago did not turn the ball over, which is always a plus. Carolina turned it over 3 times. Fuji, what did you think about the game? I don't know how much of it you caught, but it wasn't close.
I really didn't catch any of it, but I'm looking at the stats. I mean, Dalton was sacked 4 times. It's just first downs 24-14 in favor of the Bears. It's just, look at the time of possession. maybe a 7-8 minute difference. But as you said, the Red Rifle is who he is, and the Panthers are going to be the Panthers. And, it really doesn't matter. I don't know what both of your takes are, but may Bryce Young be traded by the deadline? I don't know. I don't know if anybody's. I'm sure somebody will take a flyer on him, but the Bears seem to be, weak schedule, last place. Another guy that's on the hot seat, Matt Eberflus, but it just seems like the Bears are getting it done. And in that black and blue division, who knows?
I mean, as long as they keep playing defense like they've been playing defense, it's sort of like, I don't know, cleans up some of the Caleb Williams stuff that may be still going on now. At least Caleb had a decent day today, but who doesn't against the Panthers? You know what I mean?
Right, and that's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah.
It's against the Panthers, but I'm glad for him, for Caleb anyway. And I don't expect a whole lot out of him, to be perfectly honest. It's his rookie season. I expect to see rookie mistakes. That's going to happen, especially when you're in a situation where I don't think your coaching staff is real strong. There's scapegoats everywhere.
Well, it just seems like right now the Little Sisters of the Poor could beat the Panthers.
Yeah.
Agreed.
In one of the more interesting games of the day, one of the more exciting games, a wild game, the Baltimore Ravens beat the Bengals 41-38 in overtime. They improved to 3-2. They won 3 straight. Bengals dropped to 1-4. They're in trouble. The Bengals snatched defeat away from victory. Lamar Jackson, 26 of 42, 348, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Derrick Henry, 15 carries, 92 yards a touch. Zay Flowers, 7 catches, 111 yards. Joe Burrow, 30 of 39, 392, 5 touchdowns, but a costly pick toward the end of regulation. Cincinnati could not get the running game going. Jamar Chase, breakout game, 10 catches, 193, 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins had 2 touchdowns. Back and forth, Fuge, with this game. I was catching snippets of it. Baltimore had the lead, then Cincinnati stormed back. Then it was back and forth. Lamar Jackson fumbles the football. Cincinnati thinks that they're going to go ahead and kick a field goal to win it late. Missed field goal. Again, Cincinnati just botched it in the overtime. Baltimore walks away with the victory. Bengals are in trouble.
No doubt. I mean, another close game, another barn burner. I don't know what's going on with that team. It's just, is the coach, can we sit here and say the coach is on the hot seat too?
Their defense stinks.
1-4, and I mean, one of those last plays, Derrick Henry just running the ball down to the 5-yard line. I mean, that pretty much put the nail in the coffin. Megan?
I feel like, when are we going to talk about the problem that's really gotten them where they're at right now? And that's the fact that they haven't been able to protect their quarterback since they drafted him. That's the reason their quarterback is banged up. Literally had the same injuries that Carson Wentz had, tore every ligament in his knee, came back, and he was still one of the most sacked quarterbacks 2 years in a row. So just their inability to protect him, I think, is their problem. He has had this calf injury lingering around too. Once again, have not protected your quarterback. He's such an incredible talent. And you have a great backup. However, you're never protecting anybody in that position. So to me, that says it won't lead to success. And then there's also a really high percentage of teams that make the Super Bowl and don't win, and then they never return.
Well, it just seems like ever since the Bengals lost to the Rams in the Super Bowl back then, they didn't have an offensive line either. And, they got the weapons, but like you said, you got no offensive line to protect Joe Burrow. I mean, of course,
never have.
Like you said, Ryan, their defense is just atrocious.
If anybody wants to know, the Steelers-Cowboys game is in a weather delay, so it is not started. Doesn't say what the weather delay is.
Is that game in Pittsburgh?
Yes.
Yes.
Might be some thunder boomers because it was warm today. You don't often see weather delays in October. In a battle of the most atrocious offenses of the year, The Dolphins eke out a 15-10 victory over the Patriots. The Dolphins improved to 2-3. The Patriots are now 1-4. It was just a really, really bad game to watch. Tyler Huntley for the Dolphins was 18-31, 194, no touchdowns and a pick. Jalen Wright and Raheem Mostert. Mostert had 19 carries. Jalen Wright 30 carries. They both had 80 yards. Tyreek Hill 6 catches, 69 yards. Jacoby Brissett for New England was 18-34, $160, no touchdowns, no picks. Ramondre Stevenson, who got benched last week, 12 carries, 89 yards and a touch. Demario Douglas, 6 catches, 59 yards. Again, it was a defensive struggle. It was ugly. But, I mean, Miami ran the ball 41 times for 193 yards, sort of controlled the clock a little bit. New England really couldn't muster up anything. Miami couldn't either, but Miami made one play more than New England did. Megan, again, boring game to watch, but at least Miami had a gut check win.
I went the other way in this, and I picked New England, but it was just because they had home field advantage. I was like, man, somebody's got to win this game. I'm going to give home field. Not surprised by the win, but just a terrible, terrible game. I have heard some rumors that Bryce Young might end up in Miami. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not too sure about the coach in Miami, to be honest.
Well, just looking at the stats, I mean, New England, 12 penalties for 105 yards. I mean, talk about just shooting yourself in both feet. I mean, that is, New England dominating 34 minutes to 25 and some change. I mean, or Miami dominating 34 minutes to 25. Just probably yes. Definitely probably the worst game of the week.
I was watching the game and I was like, the Browns are they're horrible. The team has quit. Period. It's just a horrible all-around performance. They dropped to 1-4. Washington 4-1. They win 34-13. Deshaun Watson quit on his team at the goal line when Stefanski wanted to go for it. Deshaun just decides to walk off the field. I thought they should have benched him after the first half. Stefanski came out after the game in his presser and said that they're sticking with Deshaun. You're paying him all that money. I guess why not? Deshaun was 15-28, 125 and a touch, no picks. He just looked like hell. He was sacked 7 times. Again, Jerome Ford and Dante Foreman both carried the ball 9 times apiece. Whoop-de-woo-do. Amari Cooper, 4 carries, 60 yards. Jaden Daniels, 14-25, 238, a touchdown and a pick. He also ran the ball 11 times for 82 yards. That has to change. Terry McLaurin, 4 catches, 112 yards, no touchdowns. Megan, again, Washington. I'm not going to get overly excited about Washington just from the standpoint of I want to see it when they're playing stiff competition. I want to see how Jaden looks against stiff competition. But look, the Browns stink.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll say this too about the Browns. I think that they are just sitting back and watching. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Leave Deshaun in there and let him take the hits at this point in time because you're not going to win any ball games. So you might as well get something out of him, right? But he has a suspension on the way, y'all. Like, I don't know if anybody else has read the details of the most recent case that's come out. Yeah. There's one key difference in this. In all the other cases, it was sexual harassment, and this one is actually assault. And so this is much different. And like I said, I expect a suspension to come through. And I'm sure that is what the Browns are hoping happens because FYI, during the offseason, they added a clause that if he had any new cases come up, that they would be able to get out of his fully guaranteed contract. So I'm sure that's what they're hoping is the case. And that then maybe they can move on. what sucks is that they had somebody that they had built with. And I don't think that Baker is an incredible talent as far as his arm, but he has a lot of heart and he's an excellent game manager. And if they had already built the offense around him, that they didn't need him to be an incredible, accurate arm. They needed him to be able to hand the ball off because they had a great run game. And so obviously when Chubb comes back, maybe we'll see a little bit of increase, but it's directionless at the moment, much like last year when they were directionless as well. Deshaun, even though younger when he had his injury, was away from the game for 2.5 seasons, and that has impacted his growth. I don't know that he'll ever be back where he was. I don't know that he'll ever be 50% of who he was.
Fuji, the whole team stinks, though. The whole team stinks.
You know, it is a shame because they got all this talent. You went out and brought in Jerry Jeudy, you know, in the off season from Denver. You know, there's rumors of what's his name being traded. Why am I drawing a blank? Amari Cooper. I mean, Deshaun Watson was sacked 7 times. And like you said, you know, Nick Chubb may be coming back, but you know, can we sit here and say Stefanski, another guy on the hot seat with all this talent? I don't know.
I don't think it's his fault. I think, you know, I don't think it's his fault. I don't think it was his decision to go after Deshaun. I think that came from above him. Baker didn't have a terrible year the year that they decided to move on from him. He was hurt, though, and played through it. So I hate that they moved on from him. I thought he was the right guy for that job. I think you have to be a specific person to want to be the quarterback there in Cleveland, and Baker could have been that.
In another exciting game of the day, the Jaguars get off the schneid, Fuji, with a 37-34 victory over the Colts. I actually had the Jags in this game. I don't know why. I just thought they would get off the schneid. Look, it's not like either team played horrendously. Maybe the defenses did. Joe Flacco was 33 of 44, 359, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Chalk it up for the old guys. Trey Sermon, 10 carries, 38 yards a touch. Alec Pierce, who if he's not catching long touchdown passes, he's not catching passes at all. 3 catches, 164 and a touch. Trevor Lawrence, 28 of 34, 374, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Tank Bigsby now overshadowing Travis Etienne. 13 carries, 101, 2 touchdowns. Brian Thomas Jr., breakout rookie here, 5 catches, 122 and a touch. Look, this game was nip and tuck the whole way. Jaguars were actually up 34-20. Colts came roaring back. But look, the Jaguars made just one play more than the Colts did. Fuji, I'm not saying the Jags are going to turn around their season because I still think they're a mediocre football team, but at least this might build a little bit of confidence for them going forward.
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, I've been talking, just the whole thing of Dougie P being on the hot seat. I know I keep bringing up these coaches being on the hot seat, but, maybe it saved his job for another week, another couple weeks, but, actually did pick the Jaguars just to get off the schneid because, to me, I don't know what's up with that Colts team, but they just seem, Richardson's been hurt, Jonathan Taylor out, Trey Sermon stepping in, but, there's just so much talent on that Jaguars team to be this bad.
Well, here's the thing, Megan. Are you going to go back to Anthony Richardson?
Hey, man.
The thing about Joe, you know what I mean? Yeah, he's going to have an interception every single game because is it really a Joe Flacco game without an interception? But then he's going to come in and have a couple of darts, and you're like, oh, yeah, this guy does know how to play football. I think you should go back to Richardson just to have your confidence in him. But having Joe Flacco as your QB2 is not a bad thing. But having no Jonathan Taylor, this is exactly why Irsay didn't want to pay him right off the bat because he has injury issues. And that's okay. But and just that's that position, as well. So I don't want to say directionless, but they're still kind of wavering back and forth on who they want to choose. I think you go back to Richardson.
Go ahead, Fuji.
I was going to say, I mean, they brought Flacco in to be a backup, and, the way Richardson's up and down, it's a good thing right now to have Flacco because look what he did. He got Cleveland in the playoffs last year. At least, he's still serviceable at his age.
Right.
And, if you need him to step in, he can do it. He's already proven.
I don't think it's really a talent thing when it comes to Richardson. I think you want to keep his confidence up, and so you keep him in that starting position. But knowing that you have a serviceable QB2, there's nothing wrong with that.
In the head scratcher game of the day, the Texans beat the Bills 23-20. If anybody watched this game, the end of it, it was 20-20. You're thinking they're going to go into overtime. Oh, by the way, the Texans are 4-1. The Bills lost 2 straight. They're now 3-2. It's 2020, and the Bills throw the ball 3 straight times, and they have to punt. They kick it back to Houston. Houston winds up kicking the winning field goal. And not only that, Houston basically knocks Josh Allen unconscious because his head hit the turf. They pull him off to the sideline to give him a smelling salt. He comes back in, which was a head scratcher. Josh Allen was terrible throwing the football, 9 of 30, 131, a touchdown, and no interceptions. James Cook, 20 carries, 82 yards, a touch. The passing game was really non-existent. C.J. Stroud, 28 of 38, 331, a touchdown, a pick. They really missed Joe Mixon. Cam Akers, 9 carries, 42 yards, and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 6 catches, 82 yards. The offensive lines played really well. The defenses played well. But look, Megan, what in the hell is Buffalo thinking at the end of the game? I was like, what are they doing? What are you, as a coach?
Well, I think this is another situation where you, like Fuji said, like another coach that might be on the hot seat. Obviously they had to change their offensive coordinator in the middle of the season last year. And you're kind of at the point now, like, hey, we've already changed other pieces. We've moved other things around. We've done what we can do as far as doing things within our means, like to quote Jerry. But as far as spending money the way that they could, I think now the only thing that is left to change is either quarterback or head coach. And I don't think you're there with Josh Allen just yet. Like, I think you change your head coach before you change Josh Allen at this point in time. But I still have question marks about Josh Allen in cold weather. Like, his elbow has been jacked up the last 2 years at the season when it's cold, when they're playing in their home stadium. So, I mean, we haven't even made it to November and December yet when the really cold weather. So we shall see, but he's starting to look like he's going to have interceptions and being exactly who he has been the last couple of seasons. It's starting to look like it's still there.
Fuji, the Bills should fine McDermott and the offensive coordinator. What are you thinking? It's 20-20. All you got to do is run the football, go into overtime, give yourself a chance at overtime. 3 passes?
Oh, exactly. Especially when you have that time, like you said, kick a field goal, send it an OT. Who knows what happens? And, we talked about during the offseason, like Megan said, about Sean McDermott being on the hot seat. And how can he not be? I mean, last week you get smoked by Baltimore, and now you just lose a heartbreaker to Houston.
Right.
Houston sitting 4-1, and the Bills dropping 2 in a row. Definitely the best matchup of the week, I would say. But I don't know.
I think Houston, when it comes to Houston, you definitely got to – if I'm somebody that's in charge over there at Houston, I would definitely be hyping up my special teams right now because that's played a huge role in their last 2 games.
Oh, they've got to get Mixon back. I don't know what they're going to do to get him healthy, but he is a major piece to that offense. And, I mean, it's shown since he's been out. They need his leadership. He's a workhorse, and they need him back. Denver Broncos.
It shows in Cincinnati that how much they miss Joe Mixon.
The only thing I would say with Joe Mixon, great running back, but he had his injuries over the years have just just piled up, and it's like, they definitely miss him. Just taking the pressure off C.J. Stroud in that passing game. I don't know. It's just Mixon's a nice back, but he, just like I said, the years are taking a beating. Those injuries just keep accumulating.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Broncos are now 3-2. Who saw that coming?
Wow.
They beat the Raiders 34-18. Raiders dropped to 2-3. The men's stash, who I'm always pulling for, struggled again. 12 of 17, 137, a touchdowns, 2 picks. Aiden O'Connell wasn't much better. He was 10 of 20, 94 yards, no touchdowns, a pick. Amir Abdullah, 5 carries, 42 yards, and a touchdown. Brock Bowers, your tight end, your leading receiver, 8 for 97 and a touch. Bo Nix, after the debacle he had last week, 19 of 27, 206, 2 touchdowns, but more importantly, no interceptions. Javonte Williams, 13 carries, 61 yards. And Javonte Williams, also the leading receiver, 5 carries, 50 yards. Look, Fuji, Broncos have a good defense, my friend. As long as Bo Nix plays within the system, he doesn't turn the ball over. Now, look, is he going to play like this week in and week out? No. But if he can just not turn the ball over and turn it over to the defense, I think the Broncos might have something cooking a little bit here. Not saying they're going to win a division, but they may vie.
No.
They may vie for maybe outside shot at a wild card.
I'll say this: I predicted Denver would win this because the allegations that came out on Antonio Pierce last week, Devontae Adams wanting out of Vegas. I'm sure that's like a big distraction in that locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And, that team's just falling. What are we in week 5, and the wheels are already just falling off the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think you get any more controversial with any team in the NFL right now, like the Raiders.
I agree with that. They, but they always find a way in there, even if it's ugly. It seems every time, and they're always in the bid for a wild card. It seems like it doesn't matter who the quarterback is or who the coach is over there. It just seems like possibly they could work it out. I was hoping that Gardner Minshew would find a home as the starting quarterback somewhere, and I was really hoping that Vegas was going to be that place. He's such a likable guy. He's got a good personality. He looked really good when he was in Philadelphia as QB2, and when he was in Indianapolis, he didn't look bad last season either. And when he was in Jacksonville, I thought he got a bum shake there. I thought he really had a lot of potential, and it was just a raw deal. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe he just maybe didn't land in the right spot to develop, or maybe he's just not that guy. But it's not looking good for him this season.
Well, great. I mean, he played in Philly for a year, and it's just it's a lot of heart. All right, he ain't the most talented, but I'll say he's like a Baker Mayfield. May not have the best talent, but the guy's got heart. He knows.
Doesn't help that your main receiver is being a baby either. So.
Like I said.
Absolutely agree.
And one of the shockers of the day, the Arizona Cardinals, ladies and gentlemen, go into Santa Clara and beat the 49ers 24-23, last-second field goal. They're both 2-3. Who saw that coming? There is something amiss in San Francisco. Kyler Murray, pedestrian, 19 of 30, 195, a touchdown, a pick. James Conner doing James Conner things, 19 carries, 86 yards. Michael Wilson, 5 receptions, 78 yards for Arizona. San Francisco, Brock Purdy, second half fell apart, 19-35, 244, touchdown, 2 picks. Jordan Mason, 14 carries, 89 yards. Brandon Ayuk, 8 for 147. But look, the turnovers hurt by Purdy. Look, San Francisco had a chance to go down the field at the end of the game, Megan. But unfortunately, Purdy, he had a lot of tip balls today at the line of scrimmage. Maybe that's the word on him, is to get your hands up as soon as he throws the ball, because he sort of does throw a low ball. But look, San Francisco's offense goes as Purdy goes, and when Purdy struggles, the whole team struggles.
Right. I have questions when it comes to the Niners, and it's not to say that they're a bad team because obviously they've made the Super Bowl a couple of times in recent years since Shanahan has been there. They just haven't been able to get over the hump, and it makes you wonder, or it just makes me wonder: are the number guys the ones that are make it into the coaching side of things, and they're known as the number guys? They don't seem to be that successful, and are we ready to say that about Shanahan? So I think the question marks are there, and it's definitely one of those of you got to prove it or you got to blow it up. Is kind of where I'm getting with the Niners.
Well, I would say this, and just to piggyback on what you're saying about Shanahan, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, but this Niners team has come close. As you said, they lost a couple Super Bowls in the last couple years, have been in the NFC Championship game, NFC Championship games. Like, where does John Lynch and the 49ers organization draw a line with Kyle Shanahan? It's like you could get them there. You get them to the big dance, but you just can't get them over the hump. And to me, it's like, well, something's got to give.
Let's see, the Packers beat the Rams. Rams are now falling apart. I don't know how in the hell they beat them.
That was a wild game too.
A lot, yeah. Packers improved to 3-2. Rams 1-4. Packers did everything in the second half in the fourth quarter to throw away the game almost. Jordan Love was 15-26, 224, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Josh Jacobs, 19 carries, 73 yards, a touch. Tucker Kraft, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my gosh.
The tight end. 4 catches, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah. Stafford for the Rams, 29-45, 260 touchdown, a pick. The pick really hurt. Kyron Williams, 22 carries, 102 and a touch. Jordan Whittington, 7 catches, 89 yards, was the leading receiver for the Rams. Fuji, if Jordan Love stays healthy, and if they can keep that team healthy on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, they might have turned a corner today. I don't know. They've got to keep Jordan Love upright, obviously. Rams are just in disarray. Look, everybody's looking up at the Vikings right now. Who saw that coming? So, I mean, the Lions and the Packers are going to sort of have to keep pace here.
Right.
Well, it just seems like, Jordan Love just coming off that knee injury from week 1. It just seems like Green Bay's got all these weapons stepping up. Tucker Kraft this week, last week, Dontavian Wicks, one of the other weeks, Josh Jacobs finally stepping in. Romeo Dobbs, I believe he was suspended earlier this week for practices. And then, Christian Watson's just been hurt. But, guys are stepping up, and, you got to at least give it to Green Bay. With the Rams receiving core, is just in shambles all the way around. Yeah. I mean, it said Puka Nacua out for another month. I don't think Cooper Kupp's ever going to be the same again. I mean, they had a couple other guys stepping in, but it's just talk about the wheels coming off fast.
Absolutely.
And, Sean McVay, to me, I would say definitely one of the most better underrated coaches in the NFL. I don't know. Sometimes he seems to find some type of magic, but, all these injuries just going against the Rams, not the Dolphins.
Megan?
I think Packers are trending in the right direction. Obviously, they didn't know exactly what Jordan Love was going to look like last year. And building off the success that they had last year, obviously they went into the playoffs as the youngest team in the playoffs. So they're still building. They're still learning. I mean, it's just 1 year after that. So they're still building. They're still learning. I expect them to continue to do well and build off what they have. They do seem to have a next man up. I don't know if it's mentality or if it's luck. Dallas has had it sometimes in the tight end position. They seem to have had it in their tight end position and in the receiving core as well. Now, hopefully, we see that their defense holds up because that's kind of where I see things as a little shaky. Jordan Love did throw his first pick six today, and that was kind of crazy. I was like, oh man, maybe the Rams do got it. They lost a couple of pieces, but maybe they can still hold it together, and they were not able to. So, trouble in LA.
Yeah. Final game on the slate, which is another surprise for me. Your New York Football Giants come away with a 29-20 victory over the Seattle Seahawks. Giants are now 2-3. The Seahawks are 3-2. Daniel Jones was 23 of 34, 257, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Tyrone Tracy Jr., ladies and gentlemen, 18 carries, 129 yards. Darius Slayton, 8 catches, 122, and a touch. Geno Smith played okay. He was 28 of 40, 284, a touchdown, no interceptions. He was your leading rusher, though. 4 carries, 72 yards. Kenneth Walker had 5 touchdowns. Zach Charbonnet had 2. Tyler Lockett, 4 catches for 75 yards. Megan, Kenneth Walker had 5 touches rushing. Zach Charbonnet, 2. That's all I'm going to say. That's pathetic. That's putrid. That's on the head coach. That's on the offense coordinator. That's horrible.
Yeah, that's terrible. What has been lacking for me when it comes to Seattle, and it was something that I felt like was they had sewed up because last year their defense looked awesome. It was like returning. They weren't quite there, but like returning to the Legion of Boom. And this year, no defense whatsoever. Geno looking like himself, but I don't think you expect a lot out of Geno, or I personally wouldn't. He's an older quarterback. He has struggled to kind of really get on his feet in the league. And so do I expect him to be a great game manager? Yeah, I don't expect him to be the talent that wins the game every single time. And especially when your defense isn't showing up and you're on the field more.
Booch?
I just want to say, I don't see how Seattle, well, obviously, Geno Smith was sacked 7 times.
That's what I'm saying.
And the Giants' time of possession was 37 minutes to 22 minutes. Like, what the hell is going on in this NFL? Like, Seattle came close to beating the Lions last week. You're 3-0, and then you just dropped 2 within 6 days, and I'm just kind of baffled. This Giants team, which is supposed to be in the basement of the NFC East, where the hell did this come from?
Right.
The time of possession alone, 37 minutes. How the hell did they dominate? Did somebody get hurt like Metcalf? How's Geno Smith sacked 7 times against this defense? Not to take it away, but it's.
How do you only give Kenneth Walker the ball 5 times? Maybe Geno Smith doesn't get sacked 7 times if you give Kenneth Walker the football and Zach Charbonnet the football to run the football. That's horrendous. It's pathetic. Cowboys Steelers still in the delay, so it must be a monsoon there or something, lightning or whatnot. Megan, your Cowboys against the Steelers. What are you looking for in this game tonight? I picked the Steelers to win. Look, I said this before the year started with the Cowboys. Who the hell is going to run the football for them? They've got no running game. No other receivers scare you other than CeeDee Lamb. So,
right.
Who do you think that the Steelers are going to key on? So,
well, I think CD is obviously who you key in on. You shut him down, and you shut down the offense right there. Obviously, we have no juice when it comes to our run game. Going back to an older running back in Zeke, because that's what you could afford at the moment. While it was nice and we saw that connection in game 1 between Dak and Zeke got the touchdown, I don't think that that's something that we're going to see consistently throughout the season. I don't think that the Cowboys run game has been the same since Mike McCarthy came into the head coaching position. We let Tony Pollard go last year, and I'm not saying that Tennessee's doing well, but Tony Pollard is playing well in Tennessee, so he's having a decent year. Definitely wish we would have kept him, but when have we ever known Mike McCarthy to run a great run game? Never. So I think that's what you do. You shut down CeeDee Lamb and you get in the mix there with Dak, make him uncomfortable. And they have the defense to do that, I believe. It's not flashy, but it's consistent. And I think that has kept them in the running many times as far as being a team that has not had a losing season. So a lot of times it's been that defense, consistent.
Megan, can you touch on, besides, CeeDee Lamb, I know Brandon Cooks has been necked up about just about hearing a lot of stuff about Jalen Tolbert really coming into his own, being wide receiver number 2. I mean, can you touch on, just what kind of player he is? Is he on the uprise with that Cowboys?
I definitely think so. We've been really lucky in the receiver and the tight end position over the last 2 to 3 seasons that we've had some injuries, or we've had some players that we moved on from because of contractual issues. And the next man up has been extremely serviceable. And so I think it's a little yet to be seen on whether he's going to be a breakout receiver like that. But at the moment, serviceable. And we shall see on the other side of things. But I think he's moving in the right direction.
Just looking at the schedule, after tonight, to be determined, obviously. Detroit next week, San Fran the next. Well, you got Detroit at home, San Fran on the road the next couple of weeks. Well, hey, it's not far away from the Eagles on the big day as well. So,
and this is the toughest part of our schedule. We really don't have a tough strength and schedule, same as with Philly. It is going to be a tougher divisional race than I expected because of what Washington is doing at this moment. New York has picked up a couple of games as well, so it's going to be a little bit of a tighter divisional race than what I expected. But as far as non-divisional opponents, it shouldn't be an extremely tough season, but the team, these couple of weeks that we're coming up on, this is the tough part of our schedule. So we'll see what we're made of. I don't have high expectations, if I'm being honest. Not for those 2 games.
We're going to go. Oh, go ahead, Fuji. I'm sorry.
I was just going to touch on, I know after the Eagles, it's following week, you got Houston, and Cincinnati.
I think Philly is a game. Are we in Philly for the first matchup, or are we in Jerry World?
In Jerry World.
I think we win that matchup. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Both teams have been struggling as of lately. I think Dallas wins at home, but they lose to Philly on the road. And so that might be one of our bounce-back games right there, but I certainly don't think we bounce back against Houston.
We're going to go a little over an hour tonight, so bonus coverage. Let's look ahead to week 6. Make some picks here. Thursday night, a crucial game. 49ers travel to Seattle. 49ers 2-3. Seahawks 3-2. San Francisco has opened up as a 3.5-point favorite. It's a pick'em game for me, but I'll defer to Megan. What do you think? 49ers at Seahawks. How do you see it?
I'm going to go with 12th man. Seattle just has that environment. They're loud. They're crazy. I'm going to go with Seattle.
Fuji?
I'm going to go to the other side and stay with those Niners. I don't know. Like both teams, you shake your head like this week anyway. I mean, here's the thing, too. My philosophy is no matter the division opponent. You could be the best team or the worst team. Both teams just, scratch and claw in any division. It's just always a rivalry.
I'm going to go San Francisco just because of what I saw out of Seattle today. So I'll go San Francisco. Sunday at 9:30 in London yet again. We got the Jaguars and the Bears. Chicago's opened up as a 2-point favorite. Shad Khan wants to move the team to London. I know the Jaguars have a good following there. I like what I'm seeing out of the Bears, but I don't know. I don't know. I just have a gut feeling the Jags win this game.
I agree with that. It's almost a home game for the Jags. They're so used to being there, and it likely will eventually be a home game for them within the next 5 years. I think it's going to happen. I think they're the team that's going to move to London, and so neither one of them have been great teams, and I will defer to home field advantage. So it's got to be the Jags.
Coach.
Well, Jags finally getting off the schneid in 4 weeks. I mean, right now, who the hell knows anymore? I mean, you think, usually, you pick the pool straight up and it's, well, you pick the pool, whatever you're playing. Who the hell saw some of these upsets today? But it just seems like it's going all the way around the NFL. I just scratched my head. I guess we can all scratch our heads. I mean, who saw the powerhouses of the NFC and AFC just losing, and it's weird. I guess I'll go with the Jags being across the pond, and as we said, they'll probably end up in London at some point.
The Cardinals 2-3 are traveling to Lambeau Field, take on the 3-2 Packers. Look, I didn't think the Cardinals would beat the 49ers today. They did. But the Packers at home, they're 5.5-point favorites. I think the Cardinals will play well. I just think the Packers win.
I agree with that. I think the Packers win, but I don't think they cover the spread. I think it'll be a closer game than that, within 3 points.
Uji?
I would say the Packers because they seem like the Love's, coming off the injury. He's starting to get his bearings back. So I believe the Packers are on the way up.
The Indianapolis Colts 2-3 travel to the Titans 1-3. Titans will be coming off the bye. The Colts are favored by a point. Somebody knows something I don't. Still don't know if Anthony Richardson's going to come back. Look, Colts with a heartbreaker today with the loss. I do not trust Will Levis whatsoever. I'm going to go Colts in this one.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I don't trust Tennessee at all. Colts. I think they'll find a way.
Coach?
Divisional matchup, but that Titans team is in shambles.
Mm-hmm.
Colts are much better right now, but I'll side with the Colts. I think it'll be a close game.
The 4-1 Texans travel to New England to take on the 1-4 Patriots. Houston's favored by 7. Look, the Patriots they're not a good football team. I don't know how the hell they beat Cincinnati. I kind of know how they beat Cincinnati now after seeing Cincinnati. But Texans should win this one comfortably. Fuji?
Agree. They'll cover the spread.
Meg? I'm sorry, Fuji?
I would go Houston. I think they'll smash them, but as we sit here week after week, there's always some type of wrench thrown in the mix. Houston it is.
Fuji, the 3-2 Bucks travel to the Saints, the 2-2 Saints. New Orleans favored by 2.5. Buccaneers will have 10 days. The Saints will have coming off the bye. Fuji. I don't know why, but the Buccaneers just seem to be a little off right now. They can't find a good balance. I'm going to go Saints.
I'll say this. Tampa Bay coming off a heartbreaker, plus a ton of players with injuries. Saints coming off the bye. The Saints were first 2 weeks right out of the gate, on fire. I don't know. I'm going to go with the Bucks because I think they're going to turn around. Or, it's going to be a battle with them and Atlanta for that division.
I think that Weather's probably going to play a role in this matchup. Whether teams are in their home facilities able to practice. Looking like Florida's going to get hit with another hurricane. In majority of the state, looks like it's in the cone. So just so many different variables going into this. I'm going to go with New Orleans.
We've got the Cleveland Browns at 1-4, Megan, traveling to Fuji's 2-2 Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia is a 9.5-point favorite. Look, the Browns, until I see it out of the Browns, Eagles all day. The Browns they're just abysmal.
Agree. And even agree that I think they cover that spread.
Well, I'll say this. If the Eagles do not win this game, after getting smoked by Washington, there is no reason that the Eagles should not come out after a bye and blow this team out of Lincoln Financial Field. There's no excuse. None whatsoever.
The 4-1 Commanders, Fuji, take on the 3-2 Ravens in Baltimore. Baltimore has opened up as a 6.5-point favorite. I want to see it from Jaden Daniels in this game. Commanders coming off a blowout at the Browns, the Ravens with an emotional win. I think this is where Jaden Daniels gets the lesson in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens are not going to sit there and let him sit there and do his thing. I've got the Ravens in this one.
Megan?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think the Ravens are going to be a wake-up call for all of Washington. That is a for real deal defense there. And while there were moments in the first couple of matchups that the Ravens their offense looked a little shaky, I don't think that their defense looked terrible. So definitely going to roll with the Ravens on this one.
Oh, I was going to say the 30 birds, but that's the Falcons. But Ravens coming off a big win, 3 in a row. I'm sure they're going to welcome Jaden Daniels open with open arms and give him a lesson in the NFL, which means not for long.
2-2 Chargers travel to the 3-2 Broncos. LA's favored by 2.5. Chargers. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Bueller? Bueller? Can you hear me?
I don't know. There it is.
2-2 Chargers at the 3-2 Broncos. Chargers favored by 2.5. Chargers coming off the bye. Broncos playing well. They won 3 straight. But Chargers coming off the bye. I think they got something for Bo Nix. I'm going Chargers in this one.
Megan?
It's tough. It's divisional, right? And they're in Denver, you said?
Correct. That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to Denver. Just travel and altitude, I think, definitely play a factor in their home game advantage. And I definitely think they split with LA this year. So I'm going to go Denver.
Fuji?
I'm going to go with the Chargers coming off the bye. It's Jim Harbaugh, I just think, has this team heading in the right direction. Yeah, as you said, Megan, divisional games are always the toughest.
Steelers and the Cowboys are still in a weather delay, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody wants to know. The Steelers, don't know what the record is going to be going into next week, traveled to Vegas to take on the Raiders. No line yet, obviously. Look, I fully expect the Steelers to win today. The Vegas Raiders are going to be desperate. Can't believe I'm going to say this. I think the Raiders win next week.
I'm going to stick with the Steelers, but I think it's going to be a Russell Wilson game. I think we see Russ in this game at least halfway through, and he might get the starting position.
Fuji?
go Steelers. I mean, depending on, barring any major injuries tonight. Like I said, that Raiders team is just buying for time, with the shambles that they're in.
The Detroit Lions are at the Dallas Cowboys next week. I can't believe I'm going to say this either. I think Dallas loses tonight because, I don't know, they're going to lose. But Dallas always seems to win the games they're not supposed to. So I say
Right.
Dallas gets the win. I say Dallas gets the win next week.
Well, they just showed they showed us right now the field there in Pittsburgh. It is pouring and lightning. And they're not going to play that game tonight.
It's coming back through. It'll be ready in about an hour.
Never just happened in the old smash mouth football and run the ball in the rain and mud. No,
Right.
I know, the lightning.
I think that's entirely possible, though, that they bounce back, because I don't think whenever they play this game, I don't think they win it regardless, just because of the injuries. But to bounce back against Detroit, and I think you're absolutely right, Ryan. Like, we win the matchups that nobody thinks we're going to win, and then we drop games that we have no business dropping. So I could definitely see that scenario happening.
Booch?
We go with the Lions. Not close.
Of course you are.
Okay.
Of course you are. 3-2 Falcons are traveling to the 1-4 Panthers. Atlanta is open as a 4.5-point favorite. Look, the Panthers stink. They have not shown me anything, even though Andy Dalton's been in there. I know they beat the Raiders, blah, 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 blah. Falcons win this going away.
You said Falcons versus who?
The Panthers.
Panthers. Yeah, no, I think that was the one win that the Panthers get this season. So I'm definitely going to go Falcons.
Mr. Fuji.
30 birds.
Okay. Next Sunday night, we've got the Bengals 1-4 at the Giants 2-3. Bengals defense stinks. Giants with a huge road win. Bengals can't go 1-5, can they? Look, I picked the Bengals this week. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I'm going to go Bengals just because I don't think they're going to go 1-5.
I'm actually going to go the other direction with this. I think New York wins this game because it's a home game, and we know what that field is like. So, not predicting an injury, but I do think
Something
that
came out early this week. I don't think they could do this early, but they wanted to flex this game they wanted to put the Ravens-Washington game on Sunday night and flex.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Like, can they flex right now? Or I thought that didn't happen until like week 10.
I have no idea. No clue.
yeah, it seems too early to me.
I mean, I'd rather see Washington-Baltimore on Sunday night than Baltimore and Cincinnati and the Giants.
Giants, Bengals, man. Who you got?
Bengals.
Next Monday, we've got the 3-2 Bills traveling to the 2-3 Jets. I am not liking what I'm seeing out of Buffalo right now. The Jets obviously played in London. They're coming back. I'm just going to go with the Jets just because I don't like what I see out of Rodgers right now. I think the Jets get back to running the football this week, and I think the Jets win this one.
I think we see the Bills bounce back with this one. They were very up and down last year in the first part of the season, and I kind of expect the same thing. So I'm gonna go Bills.
I'm gonna go Bills as well. I mean, you're coming off 2 losses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that Jets team is just a dumpster fire. I don't know. Like I said, Rodgers just retire. I mean, it's a shame to go out this way in your career, but it's like guy's just not even enjoying playing the game of football, period.
He does look miserable.
Before we wrap it up for the week, just a couple of things here. Post all these games, Joe Burrow said in his presser the Bengals are not a championship level team. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Understatement. I think that, what I said earlier about where their problems start and end with. Obviously they have defensive problems, but when you can't protect your quarterback, you're not going to win a lot of games. So that's where I'm at with them.
I can agree with you there, man, because it all, as they say, it always starts up front in the trenches.
He said he's literally gone on record and said that he doesn't even know how many concussions he's had because he's played through so many of them.
Megan, just to touch on before we let you go, I know we're a little bit over the hour mark. I mean, from your reporting inside stories, I mean, as far as I know, the NFL trade deadline's like a month away, but do you hear like any rumors come out of the north have been circulating?
The only thing that I've heard so far is the Bryce Young to Miami. And obviously that's going to be dependent on what Tua looks like over the next couple of weeks. This last injury with Tua, the kid just cannot slide to save his life. He just cannot. And so similar to when I see Dak run the ball, I just cringe. And every time I see Tua run with the ball, I'm just like, oh no, so I think Bryce might be able to have some success there in Miami. They do have more weapons than what he has in Carolina, but I don't think he's ready for that stage. And I don't think that that's the right coach to transition him to that stage.
A couple of more things, then we're done. Sean McDermott came out after the game and said that Bill's clock management was my fault. Thoughts?
He's trying to take that title away from Mike McCarthy, isn't he, as the worst time clock manager?
Let's see. Dave Canales has said that Bryant Young looked good, but Dalton is still the starter. Anyone? Any thoughts? Opinions?
I think you keep Dalton as the starter in that situation, and unless it's detrimental to Bryce's confidence. But I mean, if the Panthers have confidence in you, how good is that?
Go ahead, Fuji. No, go ahead.
2 quick questions. Who's the first head coach fired? Where does Devontae Adams end up? If you had to take a guess, both.
First head coach to go. I think right now it's probably between Cincy's coach and then Doug Peterson. I think all eyes are on Doug Peterson right now. And while they did win today, it was not a convincing win. And so, that extended it for another week, but he's definitely still in the hot seat. So I would probably lean towards Doug Peterson, but we shall see. And then Devontae Adams. I don't think that he ends up in Jersey because they just don't have the cap space for it. And so I think he ends up – I do think he moves. I see him with the Rams.
Really?
I can see him there.
Interesting.
Go ahead, Fuji.
I mean, you don't see him heading in that AFC West and those Chiefs to the guy next to you with that hat on.
I think the Chiefs are going to ride it out with the roster that they have right now. I think there's a couple of things that they could do to tweak that. They have a couple injuries, people coming back from injuries as well. And when it comes to the Chiefs, they always look a little shaky, not a lot, but a little shaky in the first part of the season. And everyone's getting ready to hit the panic button. And then it's like, bam, they just flip the nitrous switch and, make it to the Super Bowl.
Comes alive.
Right. So I don't see them tweaking their roster very much. Really don't.
Right.
One final question, and then we will wrap it up for the night. How long does Mike McCarthy last, Megan?
To the end of the season.
Is he gone?
Yeah. I think we're done with him. I think we're being very economical right now. And so right now we're going to, because he's already under contract and we're going to have to pay him regardless. I think we ride it out with him, but we're done. And I don't think we have the person that we want lined up. I don't think we even have any idea what we're doing in that situation because we had Dan Quinn lined up and we let that go. So I don't think we have Mike McCarthy's replacement ready. And so we're not going to make that decision until the season's over.
We want to thank Miss Megan Price for coming on here. She is at the Queen of Hoop. Tell the people, I mentioned it at the beginning of the show, but tell the people out there where they can get a hold of you, where they can read your stuff, how they can get in contact with you.
Just search the Queen of Hoop. You'll find me on X, Instagram, or Facebook, or you can search the Chicks Podcast, and that'll come up with our YouTube channel also. You can also just go on my Facebook page, and you'll find any time that I'm live. The radio show's on there, and sometimes I'm at the games as well. So, and I go live from there also.
I would say save your money, but
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Megan.
Oh, of course.
That wraps it up. Hope everybody enjoyed the games this weekend. Look forward to week number 6. Is there at the 50 with Fuji and Fleet this week or no?
Nah, not this week.
Okay. I will see everybody hopefully tomorrow on the locker room. Lots to talk about tomorrow. But again, thanks, Megan, for coming on.
Thank you once again.
Enjoy your week, everybody. We're out.
Thank you.